Hello there, ConocoPhillips employees. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sam. I'll be your moderator today. In just a second, we're going to be joined by Wesley Boudreau, one of our ConocoPhillips focused financial advisors, and he's here today to speak to you about some really great NUA strategies you should be considering to help you save on your taxes. Before Wesley comes on, just a couple of things I have to mention. First and foremost, please be reminded that we are financial advisors. We are not endorsed or affiliated by ConocoPhillips. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors. Next, throughout the presentation, while Wesley's speaking, I'll be behind the scenes. There is a Q&A box on the screen. Feel free to ask away. It's completely anonymous. I will be monitoring that. I'll field those questions over to one of our advisors who will reach out to you afterward to answer them either through phone or email. I'll also be entering some links. You can click directly on the links. They'll guide you to our website. They're going to pop up right above Wesley's head. You'll see them. You can click directly on those links. One will be a link to the calendar where you can book a free 15 or 30-minute block of time to get started or updated on your retirement planning, or even just to ask any questions you may have. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us over on LinkedIn if you have a LinkedIn page. We post lots of content for ConocoPhillips employees and retirees, and we really feel you'd get value out of it if you considered giving us that like or follow. And if you do, thank you so much in advance. I truly appreciate that. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into it now with Wesley Boudreau.
All right, thank you very much, Samantha, for that introduction. And like she said, we are going to be talking about NUA today, which is net unrealized appreciation. We'll talk about that kind of in general terms. We do have ExxonMobil listed up top here because that is one of the companies we do a lot of work with. So we do extensive research in and out of their NUA options within their 401k plan. But other companies like Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and many others we work with as well. So again, you can look at this generally, but we can also dig into them one-on-one in your personal situation, how your specific company plan works and can exercise NUA. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what NUA is. We'll go over a quick case study, give you a hypothetical example. I'd call it in a vacuum. You'll see that in a moment. Every situation is more unique, so it's good to run that one-on-one and tie that into a cash flow analysis where we can actually look at the big picture, which your retirement planning process looks like. We'll talk a little bit about who the retirement group is for those of you that do not remember who we are, and then hopefully set some time to schedule a meeting with myself and one of the other advisors that are focused on helping you with NUA and retirement planning transitions. So first and foremost, what is NUA? Again, it's net unrealized appreciation. Very simply put, this is a favorable tax treatment that we can exercise in 401k plans for those of you that have low cost basis stock. So again, doesn't mean every company out there is going to have that, especially private companies. There's no stock. But again, for a lot of the oil companies, this is something that comes to mind because over time, you and your company have been making contributions to your 401k plan. And if you have not traded the stock, and we do have a lot of people that trade back and forth, and maybe if you were lucky enough or smart enough to go back there in 2020 when everything dipped pretty low and buy some stuff there, you might have some NUA. But ultimately, it's typically those who have kind of kept their head down. They've put money into the stock and haven't made any changes to it, so it hasn't been traded. They still have that low cost basis stock. And instead of just simply saying, okay, I'm going to take my money, I'm going to take a distribution from my 401k when I retire, or I'm going to roll it over to an IRA and take it from there. Both of those options, assuming it's all pre-tax, which typically is most of the case, you're going to be paying ordinary income tax on that when you take that out. On the flip side, if you were to exercise NUA, it's an option where you can actually pay ordinary income taxes on just the cost basis, so the amount that you and the company have put in that you're looking to exercise it on. And all the growth, all the earnings is going to be long-term capital gains, which historically has always been a lower tax bracket. Again, there's no guarantees that they don't change things in the future, but historically it's always been a lower tax bracket. So it's the ability to save you, in some cases, 7 to 12% or even more than that on your taxes. And in some cases, there's ways to exercise it so you pay no taxes on it whatsoever beyond the ordinary income on the cost basis. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. So let's go through kind of a quick example. Let's take a look at Lucy Norton, somebody we've been using for years in these webinars and seminars. So Lucy, in this case, let's assume that she's got a stock value of about $200,000. Let's say maybe she's got a $1 million portfolio in her 401k, and $200,000 of that is in ExxonMobil stock or Chevron stock or something else, company ABC, who doesn't matter. And of that $200,000, she and the company have only paid $50,000 for it. So they put in about $50,000 over the years. It's grown to $200,000. So again, if she knew nothing and just said, okay, I'm going to take distributions when I retire, that's all going to be taxable money when she takes that out. Whether she takes it out all at once or takes it out over time, it's going to count as ordinary income. However, with NUA, she has the ability to actually exercise that and pay taxes on that $50,000 cost basis, and that growth of the 150, she's going to pay long-term capital gains. In this case, we stretch it out a little bit longer. Let's assume that she decides she doesn't need to touch this for another 10 years or so. One benefit of that is, unless they change it, you get what's called a step up in cost basis. So in her case, let's assume she took that $200,000 and it grew to 400, and God forbid something happened to her, she passed away. Her beneficiaries would get that extra 200 grand in growth tax-free because they get a step up in cost basis. So again, a lot of different little planning mechanisms to be focused on there. But in this case, let's assume that she just waited 10 years and took that full $400,000, and let's compare what it would look like exercising NUA versus taking that $400,000 from the account. Now, again, I say this in a vacuum because typically that's not going to happen. You're not going to take that full $400,000. You're going to take it out over time. But let's at least kind of show you this for comparison's sake. So on the left-hand side, that first column that you're going to see is going to be assuming that you exercise NUA. So again, that light blue on the bottom is going to be paying ordinary income taxes on that $50,000. That dark blue is that next $150,000 of growth, which will be long-term capital gains. She does not pay that until she sells that. So again, if she were to go ahead and exercise NUA, move it over to a brokerage account, which is what you have to do, she would actually not pay any long-term capital gains on that until she sells that, whether it be 2 weeks down the road or 20 years down the road. So in this case, she's got that plus that green or bright green that we have on there, long-term capital gains of the growth from that 200 to 400. So in her case, $350,000 of capital gains and $50,000 of ordinary income. On the far right-hand side, assuming she would just take that full $400,000, let it stay in the 401k or move to an IRA and take that out all at once, then she's going to go through tax bracket after tax bracket and work her way up to the 32% tax bracket. So some of that would be at the 10 to 12%, 22, 24, and 32. Her effective rate may come out to closer to 20% or 21% or something like that. But again, the difference is she's going to be paying more taxes if she were to take that out, even over the long term, comparatively speaking. But in a vacuum, in this case, if you're taking it all at once, it's going to be more. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I don't want to get into the weeds of it. I'll zoom in here for just a moment. But this is going through that example, assuming, hey, let's assume she exercised NUA and wanted to get access to that full $400,000 at the end of the 10 years, versus if she were to leave it in the 401k or roll it over to an IRA and try and access that. So the difference here is on that left-hand side, the NUA strategy, she's going to be only in that 10% tax bracket. Again, I say vacuum, this is assuming there's no other income here. And she's only paying about $2,000 there. And then once we back out the standard deductions, she's going to have 0% capital gains on the first $94,000, then 15% capital gains on the rest. So a total of about $36,000. Versus on that right-hand side, she's looking at about $75,000 or so in taxes when you kind of go through those brackets step by step. So overall, her savings are about $38,000. So again, let me stress this in a vacuum. This is assuming she has no other income. She's just simply looking at accessing this, which typically is not the case. We tend to need to review this in conjunction with what your income is, whether you took the pension as an annuity, whether you're getting Social Security, how's this all tying together. Typically you're not going to take it all in one fell swoop. It may be that you exercise NUA and then you start to kind of whittle that down, and maybe you maximize the 12% tax bracket and the 0% capital gains rate. And so you're able to do that over years. And so in some cases, it could be you exercise NUA and you avoid taxes on the long-term capital gains, again, based upon current tax brackets and strategies. So like I said before, ultimately, it's best to kind of view all of this together in running a cash flow analysis, or what we call our financial plan, in order to see how this looks in the big picture and also help you determine the best day to retire. So right now, about 3/4 of Americans over 50 don't have a written plan. If you can spend about maybe 10 to 15 minutes with us gathering some data, we can put that plan together for you, get it back over to you so we can help you review. Should I exercise NUA? When can I exercise NUA? What options do I have for retirement? Should I retire now or should I work longer? We can go through all those different options. Another issue I didn't mention on NUA is there are trigger events where you have to either be retired or 59 and a half, or death and disability, which we don't want to go through there. But simply in the back of your mind, think of 59 and a half and or being retired. And once you exercise that, you have to close out the entire 401k account. So you have to roll over the rest to an IRA, and we can go through that with you as well. So again, who the retirement group is, we are a group of independent financial advisors that work specifically with a lot of different Fortune 500 companies, in this case, Exxon, a lot of the oil companies and others that do have NUA capabilities here. We do have offices throughout the country, so rest assured if you need to sit down with one of us face to face, we can probably accommodate that. But obviously, we can still have phone conversations, email communications, web meetings, whatever your preferred method is. Just let us know. And again, most of our advisors tend to focus on only working with maybe 3 to 5 different companies, so it allows us to have a deeper focus on your specific company, understand the ins and outs of your NUA strategies, your 401k, the retiree medical benefits, pension planning, all those different aspects. And really, when we go through that cash flow analysis, we tie it all together. And that's something that's complementary. So take us up on that. If you haven't done one ever, give us a call. If you've done one, but it's been over a year or two, then we probably need to update that as well, because a lot of things have changed with interest rates, the markets and stuff there as well. So ultimately, if you have questions, give us a call at 800-900-5867. We'll be happy to kind of dig into those questions, whether it be quick and sweet, or whether you want to dig into a full financial plan. You can also reach us at info@theretirementgroup.com. And you can also use this QR code here with your cell phone if you want to get into our appointments calendar in order to set up an appointment with myself or one of the other advisors. So I said I was going to keep this short and sweet, and then take care of some questions. And if we miss those, just let me know. But I did see 2 come through, so I'll kind of get to those real quickly, and then we'll close it out for everybody. So the first one I'm seeing is, it looks like this one is specific to ExxonMobil. So it's asking, is my ExxonMobil stock an all or nothing NUA transaction? So let me kind of elaborate on that for some of you that may not know the ins and outs of the ExxonMobil stock. A lot of companies, it may be an all or nothing. It may be based upon ESOP or something like that. But ExxonMobil is actually unique, where they give you a detailed breakdown of your cost basis, so line by line. You can go all the way back and see if you got any $14 a share stock or $15 a share stock or in the 30s. And we can go in there and actually say, okay, we'll call up Voya and say, we want to exercise NUA, but just only on the 34 and below stock, or only on the company match contributions, or we want to focus on, how do we want to treat the after tax in there? Do we want to pay down NUA? Do we want to cover the tax? There's a lot of different scenarios we can go through there with ExxonMobil. It's kind of hard to get into all this on a webinar, but really, if you look at a one-on-one situation, we can definitely dig into that. And I was working with somebody actually just last week. We're really at the deadline. They're actually about to hit 73, so they're going to have to be taking their RMD. So that means they're going to take their first withdrawal. They've been lucky enough not to need to tap into it. So their first withdrawal post-retirement. So if they want to exercise NUA, they've been kind of on the fence about it. They need to do it this year, because otherwise, once that RMD kicks in, that's your first withdrawal, and that's your triggering event where you have to do NUA by the end of the year. Otherwise, you lose it at that point. So that was the other question was coming in there. Do I have to do NUA if I have low cost basis stock? So no, the NUA is not something that you actually have to do. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't know about it unless they're talking to a firm like the Retirement Group. Our goal is to sit down with you and kind of run the reviews and show you, okay, is NUA a favorable tax treatment for you or not? In some cases, even though you have low cost basis stock, it may not be a favorable situation for you because your tax bracket might be in a different situation. Maybe you're retiring, in the middle of the year and you get a severance, so you don't want to take that NUA yet, but you do need to access the 401k for something, or it may be that we want to defer that out for another year to exercise NUA. I'll be honest with you, in the years past, NUA was a little bit more favorable because the tax brackets were higher. Since those tax brackets, came down years ago, that delta, if you would, between NUA and ordinary income is not as big, but it's still definitely justifiable. So it may be something where, I'll go back to Exxon as an example. The process may be convoluted to you. So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, I'm going to exercise NUA and move that stock over. A lot of times what happens is the 401k or the company has to move it over to what's called a transfer agent. So in Exxon's case, it'll be computer shares. They send it over to computer shares. Then at that point, you can either sell on computer shares or move it over to your account that you work with. If you're working with Retirement Group, we use Charles Schwab for the IRA. But that process could be about 3 weeks to a month's time, and you're kind of out of the loop. Meaning, if the stock were start to tank and you want to sell it, you may not be able to get in there and do that because it's in the middle of getting transferred from Voya to computer shares. And same case for some of the other companies we work with. So there are some ins and outs to it, and it may be that hey, it's just not worth saving $1,000 or $2,000 in the long term to be tied up in the stock if you have concerns about volatility. So I want to thank everybody for taking some time to join us. I know I kept that kind of sweet, or short and sweet, hopefully, but at the end of the day, It's a personal situation in UA because we get into the taxes on there. So give us a call. We'll be happy to help you with that. And like we said before, even though the retirement group does a lot of extensive work with ExxonMobil and these other companies, that does not mean we're endorsed or employed by your company. But should you have any questions, just reach out, give us a call at 800-900-5867. Thank you very much, and we hope you have a great day.